So our topic today is the third and fourth shift of everyday life in families in Norway, findings and analysis from Norway. Our speaker is Cathrine Egeland. Cathrine is a research professor at Oslo Metropolitan University and a member of the Nordic Center for Research on Work and Family Life through the Life course, or NorLife for short. Cathrine does a lot of work on the boundaries and interplay between work and family life, and today she will kindly tell us about some of her and the center's recent findings regarding the third and fourth shift, the work that goes beyond a paid job and the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry, all the organization tasks that parents need to do for their children and grown-up children need to do for their parents to keep a family running. So I think we're all very much looking forward to that. Thank you very much, Cathrine, and with that I hand over to you.
Thank you. I'll start with the acknowledgement then. I acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands on which we meet today. I pay my respects to their ancestors and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connections to the country. I recognize their valuable contributions to Australian and global society. Hello, and thank you for letting me be here and talk to you today about something I've been doing research on for quite some time now. I will start with some just some context, and not just for what I'm going to talk about, but I'll tell you a bit about Norway as well, because Norway is a small country and perhaps you don't know everything about Norway, even where it is. So, but let's just start with NorLife. Barbara just mentioned something about it, and NorLife is it's like an umbrella center for a range of large research projects or major research projects that we have had. I just need to on work and family life in different life phases over the past years, and we are then a lot of colleagues and researchers who then we have developed an ambition to apply for funding to become a center of excellence for research on work and family over the life course in Norway, and that's why I'm here. I'm here at LCC to learn as much as possible about how to do that, and a bit about Oslo Metropolitan University, where I work. It's some years ago, someone wanted to call it the Welfare State University of Norway. That would be a bit a strange name, but it's a university with over 22,000 students who are educated to become administrators and professionals in the Norwegian welfare state, nurses, lawyers, engineers, teachers. And concretely, I work at the Work Research Institute, so I don't do much. Teaching. I mostly do research, actually, and that's why I'm a research professor. Yes. So just shortly about a bit about Norway, because it's far away from Australia and it's a small country. And I'm sorry that Australia is now here on the right side and not in the middle, but this is the map I found. And yes, as I said, Norway is a small country. You can perhaps see it up there with the red arrow on it. It's a coastal country with the North Sea just outside. Norway has a population of 5.5 million people. We've been independent from Denmark and then Sweden since 1905. It's a monarchy. We live on oil industry, fishing, fish farming, and a heavy taxation of the oil industry, oil production, oil activities. And yeah, all Norwegians' pension is secured by the oil industry, actually, and unfortunately, because we need to have this green shift as soon as possible. The unemployment rate is 5.4. The median age of Norwegians is 39 years. That is also because of luckily we have immigrants, and they're not that old just now, but they will of course also become older. But for the moment, we have 15% of the population who have have come to Norway and then born somewhere else. Norway also has, like Australia, indigenous population. They are called Samer, or Sami people. There are about 15,000 people. They are traditionally nomad people herding reindeer and traditionally living up in the northernmost part of Norway, which is called Finnmark. But now they live, most of them live in Oslo, where I also live, the capital of Norway. So a few words about gender and gender equality in Norway. So in Norway, according to the Global Gender Gap Report, is the third most gender equal country in the world, according to some criteria. But there are prevailing gender equality and vertical and horizontal gender segregation, for instance, in the labor market. So even if women more often than men take higher education, and most students at Norwegian universities are women, men still earn more than women, and more men than women are find themselves in top positions, leading positions. And 70% of the employees in the public sector, for instance, in teaching or in health or care, they are women. And 35% of women work part-time, in contrast to only 16% of the men. And a few words about households and families in Norway. So the average household in Norway is made up of 2.5 persons, and 1 in 4 people live alone. That is mostly younger men and older women. 7 of 10 families are what we call nuclear families, that is not extended families. And 8 in 10 families have 1 or 2 children. So families with 3 or more children, they are fewer and fewer. And it's becoming more and more rare. And 2 in 10 families have one parent families. And 46% of children with divorced parents live with both parents, swapping from every other week between these parents. So that is, I mean, some years ago, when a couple divorced, their children mostly went on living with the mother. But now this is divided equally between mothers and fathers, more or less. Yes, and a couple of words about families in the Norwegian welfare state. We have a parental week of 49 weeks, and it's mothers and fathers can share it. And there is a father quota of 15 weeks. If you want to stay longer at home with your baby, you have to pay it yourself, but 49 weeks are paid by the state. Yes. And 6 in 10 fathers use their full father quota today. In terms of work, 68% of mothers in Norway work full-time. Almost all children go to kindergarten, and 61% of children between 6 and 9, school children, they attend after school program subsidized by the state. And in terms of activities, 76% of children in Norway go to organized sport activities, and 21% play an instrument. So in terms of activities, it's obvious that Norwegians are more interested in sport than in culture and art. So family and shift work. When we talk about shift work and family life, it is of course a way of comparing family life to industrial shift work, where we have an ongoing production and the workers who need to work shift in order to hold the production line. But in family life, we have then the first shift, and that is paid work normally outside the home. And then there's the second shift, that's the unpaid domestic work. It also includes visible care work for the family members. But then there's this third shift, which is that the notion of third shift was first used by Ali Horschel. And the third shift is the invisible coordination and organization of the family, and the family's social responsibilities and the responsibilities for the well-being of the family members. And then I'm also going to talk about the fourth shift, and it is something we are developing, this notion. And what we think about with the fourth shift is the administration of aging parents' lives. And then, of course, one can criticize this shift, this notion of different shifts, because is it at all realistic to talk about shifts like this? And with new technology and digitalization, does it really make sense to talk about shift like this? Isn't the lines between them more blurred? And I would say yes. That is somewhere how correct, because you can be at work now, and because of your mobile phone, you can also do a lot of third and fourth shift work, but I will come to that later. Yes, and when I'm talking about the third and the fourth shift here, it is because me and my colleagues, we are interested in everyday life and everyday stress and mental load, and we think that it is time to not only have the attention on the third shift in families with small children, but move on also to be interested in the stress and mental load following with the fourth shift, that is when you have to take care of your own parents. And what I'm going to talk about today is built on data material and analysis from two Norlife projects. The one project is a mapping and also a quantitative and qualitative study of everyday lives and families in Norway that we did between 2019 and 2021, where we explored the third shift, and another project where we have been looking at combining work and care for older parents, where we explore the fourth shift. So Kartfam is a study, a mixed method study, where we have interviewed 35 families during the first time during the winter of 2019, and then again the same families in the spring of 2021. We have also performed a representative study among a representative survey among 1,035 parents of children under the age of 17 during the first quarter of 2021. And why we call this a mixed method is because the questions of the survey were informed by findings from the interviews in the first interview round, and then the findings in the survey again informed our questions for the second round of interviews. So our theoretical approaches, so I've already been talking about the third shift, and the important thing about the third shift in terms of gender is that women, research has shown that women do more of the invisible organizational and emotional work in families, resulting in an undue mental load on mothers. So research already showed this, but we are also interested in what has been called the intensification of parenting and parents' concerted cultivation of their children. So it is not any longer enough that to just give your children a roof above their heads and food on the table. You have to do more. Parents should engage in their children's emotional well-being and their social lives. Parents today have to invest time in producing competitive children, and organized activities are important both as a way to increase the children's practical and social skills, but it's also to keep them active. So today, for instance, football is regarded as good and healthy, and screen is bad. Parents do a lot of work and use a lot of time on keeping their children away from the screen and keeping them active in organized activities. And so, of course, one can say that these are all mainly middle-class values and morals, and that is correct. But gradually, these middle-class values are becoming the dominant parenting practice among all class strata, and that is not only in Norway, but internationally. So what we find in Cathrine is that mothers report a higher degree of stress in their everyday life. And they report more stress than what the fathers do. We also find that there are gender differences in how much time parents spend on different activities in the family's everyday life. And one can ask if the uneven distribution of the second shift can explain the mother's experienced stress. But no, we find that even after adjusting for the father's efforts in childcare and course inside the home, we find that mothers still experience more stress than the fathers do. So time spent on household duties explain only some of the mothers' experienced daily stress, leaving a gender gap in terms of stress unexplained. So here we come to the third shift. And our analysis of both the qualitative and the quantitative data in Cathrine reveal a pattern where mothers usually have the overall responsibility and overview of the family life. And this has consequences. So we wanted to explore the third shift, and we asked the respondents in the representative study about 6 perhaps rather typical third shift tasks in the family life. We asked who planned the family social activities, who fixed the carnival costumes or the dresses for special occasions, who do the shopping of presents for Christmas or birthdays, who attend meetings at school, teacher conferences, who do the holiday planning, and who buy the clothes for the children. And what we found was that in most cases, both the mothers and the fathers who had responded, in most cases, they found that the mothers did most of this. However, for instance, in terms of attending parent-teacher conferences at school, they felt that both mothers and fathers did it. And as you can see, it's the mothers and fathers do not necessarily agree that mothers always do more than men. And one can ask if men then perhaps overestimate their own daily contribution, and that they do that to greater extent than women do, or father and mothers in this context. And one can ask if fathers perhaps only partially acknowledge that mothers take more responsibility for these invisible coordinating social emotional tasks. And it is also relevant to ask if perhaps fathers do not fully acknowledge the significance of these tasks for the family. And this is perhaps symptomatic of the third shift. It is tasks that are invisible, perhaps not recognized, and they take place backstage. So we wanted to explore that in our qualitative interviews as well. And for instance, here then, buying presents, it is rather a good example of the invisible division of responsibility of these the third shift tasks. Buying birthday presents is one thing. Having the overview and knowing that it needs to be done is something completely different. But here is a quotation then from one of the interviews, a mother in a family. And she says, "He always does everything I ask," that is the father. "But it's just that he doesn't always come up with it himself. He doesn't remember people's birthday." And then the interviewer said, "So if a gift is to be bought, you must do it, otherwise it won't be done." The mother says, "Yes, that's just the way he is. It's not because he's lazy or has ill will. It's just the way he is. I can hardly be annoyed either because it's just the way he is. And he never gets annoyed with me for nagging. So then it's okay. I can nag or say, 'Can you do this and that?' And he always does." So not buying presents, what would happen? So forgetting to buy a birthday present, so what, you can ask, and do children at all care about it? When they go to a birthday party, they just want to have fun, right? But not buying a birthday present is to fail as a parent. You are not cultivating your child's social standing and network. Because as a parent, as a mother, you have to think and you have to plan for the long run of your children. So when it comes to the third shift tasks, we think, are multiplying with the intensification of parenting. And in the third shift, most tasks are invisible, and then they are seemingly unimportant, and it's difficult to distribute them and share them. And they are invisible, except for when they are not done. And it's the mothers that take the responsibility for the third shift. And it is because the family is a project that has to succeed, but somebody has to do the work backstage to make it succeed. Because the third shift is somehow on a cultural and discursive collision course with strong values and norms in Norway, norms concerning not only gender equality, but equality as such. And the third shift and the tasks related to the third shift has to, those activities has to stay backstage. They has to be done, but invisible. And in terms of stress and mental load, debates about gender, time and stress and family life in Norway tend to center on working mothers and what has been called the long arm of the job. So it has been said that perhaps working part-time is not that bad because women has so much to tend to, and they are getting stressed up by working full-time. But we think that the combination of the third shift and the intensification of parenting suggests that more attention should be given to what has been called the long arm of the home. Because perhaps the problem with stress hasn't got so much to do with work or the first shift. And we think that more attention as regards the third shift should be paid to digitalization of everyday life, because digitalization, taking your mobile phone to work, for instance, make mothers more and more available. You're at work and still you can attend to your children. And as I will show now in the fourth shift, you can also attend to your own parents while working. So I'm now moving on to the fourth shift. I hope I have the time to do that. So just very rapid. The context for this is the same in Norway as I guess it is in Australia. There is an aging population, the welfare state is under pressure, and one thinks that the solution to this is digitalization, and in the long run also that adult children and employees actually need to take more care of their own parents than what has been the case up until now, where we have, for at least in Norway, have had an extensive elder care, public elder care. And then I will use some of the findings and analysis from co-work here to talk about this. And this is, the data is a combination of administrative records, what we also call register data from public health, work and welfare administrations in Norway. We collected data from a national representative sample of over 6,000 respondents between 35 and 67 years with older parents. And we have performed 34 qualitative interviews with adult children in employment in different sectors with care responsibility for their own parents. So I've not personally been doing these interviews, but I've been part of this project. And we talk about the fourth shift here. In this context, we use it as a result of an aging population and emergent digitalization. And in Norway, as in many other countries, we have had this rapid digitalizations of almost all interaction with public agencies, healthcare administrations, and those administrating our pension, and all kinds of banking services and welfare services, and all this is now digitalized. We use apps, and we also have specific bank IDs, personal, that is required to access all these digital services. But then it has become evident that this, let's call it digital citizenship, is not available anymore to everybody, because the older part of the population, everybody do not have the ability to be part of this development. And so there is this notion of the great digital divide, and where we see that a lot of older citizens, they lose their digital citizenship. And the question then is, who will close the great digital divide? And that seems to be the adult children, because in co-work care, Heidi Gautun and Christopher Batt have examined the representative service data on the help and care that Norwegian adult children provide their older parents. And assistance with digital technology has become the most common form of help. 39 of the participants reported that they had provided help with digital technology at least monthly for their parents. And I just have a couple of quotes here from the qualitative interviews, just fleshing this a bit out. So the first respondent say about his father, I should have been to the bank and arranged it so that I get his account directly on my mobile bank and so on. I haven't done that because then I would have to go home and get him and take him with me and have an appointment at the bank. And there are so many things like that which don't get, yes, which it takes a while before I get to do it, but it's on my list that I should get it done. And another interviewee says about her parents, I have full control over the bank. So we arranged that at the bank so that I have full access. So I have all our accounts, yes, on my own system. So I handle all the bills as well. I have been doing that for a few years, taking on that job too. So, but most of it happens automatically. But of course, my mother orders little things now and then that come on invoices. So I'm the one who puts that in them. So there won't be any trouble there. And this is these interviewees, they work, they are employed and have full-time work, and then they do this on top. So digitalization then was supposed to take the ease and to save the welfare state and the elder care. But there is a cost and it comes with a price. Because backstage, the adult children of the older population, they have to close the great digital divide by providing a lot of administration of the digital communication and interaction that the older parents have to have with public authorities and welfare services. And what we see is an increasing and expensive and perhaps depressive digital administration all the way to the grave of our parents' lives. And we think that more knowledge is needed about the consequences also for family life of the fourth shift. And we need to have this before we perhaps see an explosion of what you could call an unintended retirement trap, where adult children have to retire themselves in order to take care of their own parents. So this is my last, yes, this was my last slide, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Cathrine. That was super interesting. I should probably put my video back on. So I don't have any questions in the chat yet. So while people hopefully start typing some, maybe I just ask a question of my own. It all sounds very interesting. Do you have any plans for research on quantifying the effects of these issues a bit? Because particularly for the third shift, because all these tasks are so small, I can see that it will probably be quite difficult to go beyond saying mothers feel stressed in terms of what is the impact of that. But that would also be such an obviously important extension. Are there any, do you have any plans there to?
So perhaps I failed to, I should have said in the start that I'm a qualitative researcher. So I work with quantitative researchers, but yes, we do have plans to go more into both the third and the fourth shift. And what was earlier called, I think, this sandwich generation, you know, with adult children who have to take care of both their children and their own parents. But we would like to dig more into that and see how it plays out against the backdrop of digitalization, both quantitatively and qualitatively.
Okay, and on this point of digitalization, is it also, I mean, you said parents need more help because of the digital technologies, but at the same time, these technologies probably also make a few tasks easier, like this person saying, I didn't get it, or I didn't go to the bank yet to organize this, where previous generation who had to take care of their parents might not have the need to help them with the computer or the mobile phone, but they had to physically go to the bank with them. Do you have any insights into whether this digitalization helps more or challenges more?
So this is some of our findings seem to indicate that the digitalization that was supposed to make things more effective, so that older people could live at, for instance, could live at home longer and be independent. That comes with a price, because a lot of older people, at least in Norway, they don't really understand all of this digital universe. They don't really get it, and when they are slightly impaired, their cognition, they do not, for instance, when they have to pay their bills through the bank, they need a bank ID. If they don't have this bank ID, then their children, they cannot just go to the bank and get it for them. The old person have to go themselves to get it, because it's totally personal. And yeah, so digitalization have made some things more easy, but has also made produced a lot of challenges for people who have not, who are not born into this digital world.
Yeah. Janine just asked in the chat, is it mainly women who are closing the gap in the fourth shift, or is that unknown as of yet?
In the quantitative survey, there actually wasn't a gender difference between the women and the men, or the daughters and the sons, let's say that. But I think that we need to do more longitudinal studies here, and to see if there is a gender difference. But for the moment, and in this survey that was done in co-work care, there wasn't any difference in terms of the digital help provided.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I wondered if you were going to say that, and I just, yeah, if that's the case, then that would be a really nice area to explore further, because it'd be the one area of care work where we're not seeing that, traditional gender divide, and it'd be really interesting to unpack, is that related to the digitalization of it, or is it something else about, when it's your parents, whichever set of, if the man's parents, he looks after them, or is it, is it kind of, why is that? And I can think of a number of interesting things to explore. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's also another comment saying, would be fascinating to see in the future whether men or women are more likely to fall into the retirement trap. Do you have any insights into that already?
Yeah, but at least I think that was not the intention of the Norwegian government, because they wanted to, it would be, they wanted to, if there's not enough hands in the healthcare sector, because people are getting older, then I don't think they thought about that one consequence of this digitalization would actually be that people, because of all these administrative tasks, they actually can't see any other way out than retiring themselves.
Thank you. I guess related to that, also about earnings trajectories, John has been asking, do men who take parental leave suffer penalties in their earnings or promotion trajectories? So I'm assuming relating to this earmarked portion of the parental leave in Norway, they can take this leave, but not all of them do take the full portion. Is that associated with earnings hits, and how can that be neutralized?
Yes, it is. It has to do with income, of course, to some extent, but at the same time, fathers taking parental leave or their quota is happening across social strata. But I would also like to say that the strange thing about taking care of your children and in contrast to taking care of your parents is regarded as two totally different things. So you have this parental leave and all this, and I mean, when I had small children, I could say at work, I have to stay at home because my children is ill and stuff like that. But there's a completely different discourse surrounding taking care of your own parents, and of course it's because it's like unpredictable and not very hopeful, and you don't know how long it will go on if you have a parent who is ill. But there are fewer welfare arrangements surrounding being a child of an ill parent than being a parent with small children in Norway now. But perhaps in the future we need to look at that.
But I think that's really interesting to explore further as well. And I'm just thinking, I was having this conversation with someone this morning or earlier today about parents, and if they live a long way away from you, then that kind of adds a degree of complexity into it as well. Unlike children, parents often don't live in your house. So it just means that there's another complication about, do you kind of travel and be there and help them full time, or do you, so it's a different kind of care work to childcare, and around the complex, and it's not as bound up with households as it is with childcare. And it's also children are typically the children of both the people living in the household, with parents are parents of one and not the other. And so I could just see some interesting kind of family ties and geographical issues coming into play there. But I'm just thinking out loud. I'll stop and let others ask you questions.
There were actually two questions very related to that point about the migrant population in Norway, whether you have ethnic and cultural differences, and I assume also the geographic patterns of where children and their parents live could be different in different cultural background populations. Do you have any insights into those differences within the Norwegian population?
I think not that it's not the research I do myself, but I think there is some research into how children of immigrants, how they do take care of their parents when they become old. But I don't know enough about that, and I don't know how this is played out, for instance, among Sami people either. But definitely, it's kind of knowledge we definitely we need.
So I'm getting a bit confused with the chat here. I actually have to quickly scroll through what I've missed so far. There were some comments from Francis and Caroline on the long arm of the job and the long arm of the home and things just mixing in together. Francis, do you just want to actually repeat your question yourself? I probably don't need to read out everything.
No, basically, I know you referred to the long arm of the job, and Cathrine has picked this up, but I guess what I was suggesting was that you referred to that, but you didn't separate it out as an actual shift. And I think what I'm saying is that I think it's such an enormous change to our working culture, what technology has brought to the work setting for those of us who work in the knowledge economy. For people who work in trades and so forth, or if you're a policeman or something like that, where you have to physically be at work and then you can switch off at the end of the day. But those of us who work in the knowledge economy sort of space, work is available 24/7, and it certainly does reach out to you 24/7. And even 20 years ago, as I said in my comment, it was possible for you to finish at work, turn your computer off and go home, so to speak. And now that seems to be a thing of the past, and it very much encroaches on, I see it everywhere with colleagues and friends and so forth, that the shift in the pattern of work and the availability of work and almost the expectations that whatever you're employed for, your 38-hour week. I mean, that's just it's a bit of a fantasy, really, given that what technology allows and how it's operationalized, and that's mixed in with the whole ability to work from home that COVID has also changed.
Yes.
Modes of work, but I just thought, I actually think it's big enough to be considered a fifth shift.
There was also another comment from Caroline on childcare and elder care. Caroline, do you want to explain that?
Thanks very much, Barbara, and thank you, Cathrine, for such a fascinating presentation. It was really interesting. I was just reflecting on the policy moves in Australia at the moment to really push towards funding universal childcare or early education and care for children. But although there are more provisions being made for older people to stay, as you were saying, in their homes and independent, it's not quite the same as thinking about universal childcare. But the way you've talked about the different shifts, that really pushes forward the need for that thinking to move forward here in Australia.
Very much agree with that. How is the situation in Norway in terms of care provisions for the elderly? Is that fairly universal, or?
No, that's a part of the problem. It's if up until now we have had enough. It's not really institutions, but we have had enough places where really old people could go when they cannot live at home anymore, and then they don't have to move to the children's house, but to this kind of institution, elderly home. But there are not enough institutions and not enough people working in the care sector to take care of them. So then they have to stay at home. And then the government say, and people also want to stay at home because they like being at home, but they don't really know that. That's just something they say. And they say that the people should stay at home and have all the technology available to them to be able to do that. But when it comes to the children who have to attend to them, to do all this kind of administration of their digital, the elderly parent digital life, there is some days during a work year, you can have some days, I think up till 10 or 15 days of what is called a welfare day. That could be, but that's not, that's not narrowed down to just being for your parents. It's welfare in all sorts of ways. If you need to move a house, that's a welfare day, you use that. But up until now, there haven't been much thought given to actually what is coming with this aging wave, or what they call it, what that actually will mean for work life, for adult children.
And I suppose as much as it actually sounds like a great idea, the welfare days, but the nature of the tasks you've been talking about don't really lend themselves to just taking a day off and doing all the banking for a year. And so this problem of everything flowing into each other is difficult to address with individual days off, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, and in terms of geography, like in modern day Norway, you know, most of us, we live in, for instance, in Oslo, in the capital, or in 2 or 3 of the other big cities. They're not big compared to Australian cities, of course, but many children live far away from their parents, and that is also, of course, becoming a problem now that needs to be addressed somehow.